Bonjour.
Vive la France! We are in Paris!
Oui, oui, baguette. All right, in all seriousness, I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, and I'm sure you're all playing Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, many of you may have noticed that I've kind of fallen off the map for a couple days. I haven't said anything much on any platform, whether it be YouTube or social media, when it comes to Pokemon Legends ZA. So, I am here to tell you that it is indeed good news as to why I've been off the map for 2 days at least now, because I have been addicted to Pokemon Legends ZA, and in the best way possible. I am very pleasantly surprised, because I'll admit, this was one of those games where I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. I knew that there was things that I really liked, but then there was other things that kind of, were red flags to me. And suffice to say, yes, there's still some things that I am not too happy with. However, overall, this is one of the best Pokemon games I've ever played, and I'll happily admit that. Now, do I like it as much as Arceus? I don't know yet. Again, this is early impressions. I have not played through the game, so I can't say anything concrete quite yet. However, I will say that I am enjoying it at least as much as I've enjoyed Pokemon Legends Arceus in the past. I have been impressed in many ways from Game Freak here with this game, and just overall happy that it's a running, functioning, pretty good looking Pokemon game. And I know I'm going to get some flack for saying that. I know that there's a lot of people who are like sharing screenshots or quick gameplay clips of like really honestly downgraded quality images of, like buildings and windows and things like that. And listen, you're playing this game, you're not going to be stopping and paying attention to those things per se. So there's a lot of other things that you will stop and pay attention to. It's not really going to be those. And if you do, it's going to be a one-off. You're going to find something, you're going to be like, oh, that's a little weird, but it's in this like one spot of the map and it's not anywhere else. It's typically fine. Everything is conveyed in the ways that they're supposed to. The buildings convey that they're buildings. The city feels lively. Something I did not expect from any footage in the trailers. It didn't look lively in the trailers, but playing the game, it feels lively. Half the time I'm like running around and I'll end up running alongside an NPC. The NPC might stop running and give me a dirty look. Like, it's really cool, actually. I have some footage too. I may share it on this video, or I may share it in a subsequent video of like NPCs giving me dirty looks and stuff. It's the funniest thing. I also have some other fun secrets that I have found that I'm going to be sharing with you guys within the next few days. So be sure to make sure that you're around the channel so that you can see those little tidbits, because there's stuff that certain things that some other people have touched on, but not to the extent that I think they deserve focus on, and some other things that I haven't seen anyone touch on that I'm finding, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of for me, a big deal. I don't know. I love it. Let me go ahead and start organizing my thoughts here. So the first thing that I want to touch on is the fact that people are mad or sad that this takes place in a city. And I read the reviews, I even read the reviews here on the channel to you guys, and we discussed that a bit in the previous video. However, today I want to discuss that now that I've experienced it firsthand, okay? I am playing Pokemon Legends ZA. I am a newbie to the city, both as the player and as the character. And you know what it feels like? It doesn't feel like the grand adventure, sure, that you get from most Pokemon games in the main line. It doesn't feel like you're going on this big, epic traveling journey, right? But it doesn't necessarily need to be that, right? You can have different Pokemon experiences in different games, and each one be as valid as the next, just in different ways. So, you know what this game feels like? It feels like a vacation or a slice of life, is something that I saw someone say, and I really felt that. It also kind of feels like a noir story in some ways. Like, you're in the city, but there's like mystery, and you do become a detective essentially at your core. Your character becomes a detective, working with Emma and working with Team MZ and whatever. Quasartico even kind of hires you on as a detective of sorts. And I am so vibing with it. Now, here's the reason why I really love the setting and the slice of life aspect to this game. And that is because, one, I'm a person who loves slice of life shows and movies, you know, like I really love things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a supernatural slice of life, but whatever. But other things too, you know, like the sitcom Girlfriends or That's So Raven, Raven's Home, Heartstopper, you know, slice of life things that have meaning and impact I typically really vibe with, especially when they're done well. Oh, Never Have I Ever. That's another really great one. Again, if you haven't seen any of these shows or movies, highly recommend, obviously, since I am talking about them now. So yes, the game is grabbing me with its slice of life elements that it has with the story, characters, and side quests so far. And then on top of that, I am a city boy, and I do love the city. I live in the largest city, the first city you would think of when you think of the United States, and that's where I live. And I'm in love with it in real life. And so getting to play through a virtual city, you might think, oh, it would just be more of like what I experience in real life. So why would I want to do that? Because the point of video games is to escape real life and kind of go in a fantasy fictional world. But it's cool at the same time to see a fictional version of a city. And sure, I don't live in Paris or anything. I'm not saying that I live in the exact city that this game takes place in, but it is cool to live in a virtual city also and see a different take on that with the fantasy elements that Pokemon brings. And this game does a better job than most Pokemon games of bringing the Pokemon to the forefront of the lore, of the things happening around the city. Like, we've wanted for so long to see Pokemon actually interact and be a part of the environments they're in. And this game, better than any previous mainline Pokemon game, does that. And it's a lot closer to Pokemon Snap, actually, the way that you see them live in the environments, and you can even catch them through that way and things like that. And it's really, really cool. And now the third thing of why this cityscape works for this game so well, or works for a Pokemon game so well, is honestly, I feel more explorative within Lumio City than I did in even Legends Arceus or Scarlet Violet. Like, yes, you had these open vistas in those games, but because they were so open, I didn't feel like I was exploring so much as just kind of running around, you know, a big open field. And there were some things to discover, especially in Legends Arceus compared to SV. But this game in particular, it rewards you for exploring. And there's so many nooks and crannies. And because it's in a city, there's more design to the levels. And I think that's something I've always appreciated. I love level design. And because it's in the city, they're using the buildings and they're using alleyways and they're using riverbanks and canals. And they're making it feel like levels within the city to try to explore and find out, how can I get from here to there? Because you're more limited and you have more obstacles right now. Whereas in previous games, you're less limited and have less obstacles. And I really enjoy that. That's one of the things that I've enjoyed most from video games. You know, like you have to use your Pokemon to burn down certain like obstacles blocking your path or break boulders blocking your path. You have to use ladders. You have to use other things that I don't want to spoil for you guys. It is very satisfying. And again, I feel, oddly enough, more explorative in Pokemon Legends EA than I have in any other mainline Pokemon game before. At least not since some really early Pokemon games where it did feel more like exploration. Like, honestly, the 2D Pokemon games. I feel more akin to that right now with the exploration, because back in 2D Pokemon, I feel like it was more when we had this sense of wonder of like what could really be around the corner, because they were more creative with their level designs, I think, than their 3D games. Sun and Moon was pretty much straightforward paths. Sword and Shield, pretty much straightforward paths, even though they were beautiful. Legends Arceus, too open, in my opinion. And I love Legends Arceus, don't get me wrong. Still my favorite Pokemon game, yet to be decided if ZA will replace that, but too open. Scarlet Violet, too open, and nowhere really to go of interest in Scarlet and Violet. No indoor areas or anything that really grabbed my attention. But here, there is so much and so densely packed by comparison to those games that I am more enthralled by this setting than I've been with a Pokemon setting in a long time. Well, I take it back. I've still been I was still very enthralled with Hisui, just in a different way. This is more akin to the 2D games, that sense of discovery that I felt with those. And even something like Breath of the Wild, you know, like, oh, something could always be around the corner or over that hill. You know, Zelda Breath of the Wild feels like that a lot. And I still didn't really get that much from Legends Arceus, and I didn't get that almost at all with SV. So to feel that here in ZA is a phenomenal feeling. And again, Pokemon games, compared to most games, a lot of people would consider them mid. And if I'm looking at it compared to most games, you know, the level design, it's still, it's just aligned with them. It's not any better. It's not any worse in my opinion so far. It's just on par, which is more than enough for me that I would ask from a Pokemon game, because to me, Pokemon is a game series that I want to experience what I experience in other games, but with Pokemon. That's how I feel about the series. And so getting to do that here, I feel like I'm playing a kind of, not Grand Theft Auto, but maybe more like Cyberpunk, but with Pokemon type thing. And I really love and appreciate that. Next, I want to talk about the difficulty of the game. And I don't want to retread what everyone else is talking about. That's boring to me and for you guys. So when I'm going to talk about the difficulty here, it's not going to have to do with, oh, like, let me explain how the combat works in this game. You know how the combat works in this game. So what makes this game more difficult, and I'm an action game player, okay? I play action games. I'm very well versed in action games. I'm very good at them. So far, getting used to this combat system has been quite a difficulty curve, in a good way. It's not too hard, but it's also not like super easy either. Not easy at all, really. I'm surprised at how much focus is put on keeping your players safe. I didn't expect it to be so difficult. It's actually harder in Legends ZA to keep your player character alive than it is to keep them alive in Legends Arceus. In Legends Arceus, a lot of the times, you could cop out if you're about to die by throwing out your Pokemon and entering the turn-based battle. From then on, your player character is safe and you actually heal. Now in ZA, you don't have that because everything is real time. So if you get on that last bit of life, which doesn't take long, it only takes, 3 or 4 hits, you have to still make sure you're dodging even when your Pokemon's out attacking. And be careful not to get too close to your Pokemon, because if your Pokemon gets hit and it's an attack that keeps going through them, you will still get hit and you will die. I actually died in this game, fair and square, when there was a wall of Spinarak in the cemetery and there was an alpha. And I poked the bear. I tried to catch the alpha, but it broke out. And as soon as it broke out, it dropped down and all the little Spinaraks dropped down too. And they swarmed me. When I tell you it was like 6 Pokemon at once attacking me, I mean it. One of them was an alpha. That thing was not going to go down easy, because even if an alpha is lower level than you, it still is way stronger than any of your Pokemon. Like, it's crazy actually how they're balanced. They very much are mini bosses scattered throughout the map, and very difficult ones, especially in the scenario where they call upon a team of little versions of themselves and swarm you. And I died, and it was so satisfying. It was one of the most satisfying deaths I've ever had in a video game, because I was like, I deserve that. I really deserve that. I poked the bear. I didn't think too hard about it, because usually you don't have to think too hard in a Pokemon game. I thought, let me just throw this Pokeball, and if it fails, it fails. I'll be safe. I'll be fine. No. You need to think before you throw that ball. You have to think. You have to plan accordingly, or you will die in this game. And it is so good that is the case, because it's new, it's fresh for Pokemon. Even Legends Arceus, it was difficult in its own right, especially the final hidden boss, things like that. But it wasn't difficult in the sense that I felt in genuine danger anytime I was in the vicinity of things that should pose danger theoretically, right? And I really appreciate that about ZA here. I really appreciate that at every moment, at every step in my game plan, I have to be thinking and planning accordingly, or else I will faint. And again, the cityscape comes into play here too, because of the more tight corridors and because things are not so open, it is harder to position yourself safely. Now, you can use things as cover. Sure, you can hide behind, I could have hid behind cemetery blocks, which I did try to do. However, you can't see behind you still. Just like in real life, you can't see behind you. So when I'm running away or I don't have any clear path out of whatever kind of shape the attack is that the enemy Pokemon is doing, sometimes your options are so limited and you have to make, sometimes there's only one right decision, sometimes there might be none. It's very interesting to think about. I really don't know if I had anywhere to jump or dive to get out of the way of these Pokemon when they were attacking me in that scenario. Or if I could have made it running away, I would have needed to turn the camera away. But certain attacks, they're not always straight lines, right? Some things are AoEs, some things are faster, some things are slower. Sometimes they'll like poison, whatever, right? It's very interesting to think about all of these things, and it's very difficult to come up with them in the heat of battle sometimes, and I really appreciate that, especially as, again, someone who is an action game fan. Now, the story, I don't want to talk about the story because I don't want to spoil anything, and I'm also not even that far. It's not like I could talk to you about the story, but we do need to talk about the tutorial, because this is a problem that is still persisting with Pokemon and Game Freak. I went to a party and talked to my friends. We were talking about the game. Every single one of us, and these are more casual players, okay? You know me, I'm kind of a hardcore gamer. These are casual players that I'm talking to, and even they were annoyed with Tawny / whatever the male character version's name is, your rival, right? Rival, whatever they are in this game. They were also annoyed at the fact that they just string you along. They don't let you explore or do what you want or anything at the beginning. It is so railroaded at the beginning with how you go through it that I wonder why they gave you the option to walk a different direction at all. Because every time you go slightly in a different direction, you are stopped and told you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. And that, for me, and even for the casual friends that I have that are playing the game, that was a big problem. But you know what this game did not do anything wrong with whatsoever at all? And I'm a good 10 hours in. I still have not heard a bad music track in this game. That is insane. And I'm someone who really loved the soundtracks in Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Sword and Shield. Those two games, to me, had some of the best music in the entire franchise and are, in my opinion, the best soundtracks for Pokemon in modern day. Right up there with the classics from retro Pokemon like Gen 2 or Gen 5. I think that Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus had the best soundtracks since those games. And I actually didn't really like the music in X and Y all that much. I can't think of any songs from it that were standouts to me. And matter of fact, I actually really hated the Lumio City song. I hated it. It grated on me, and you had to visit Lumio City so much in X and Y that I got so frustrated that I would hear those that same melody play over and over and over ad nauseum, and I did not like it. However, Pokemon Legends EA, I love the Lumio City song. I love every single piece of music I have heard so far, and I can only imagine that it doesn't get any worse. It gets even better. So this is the most consistently good soundtrack so far that I have heard in any Pokemon game. And before this, again, I think that the games that I mentioned earlier were my versions of that. Now let's talk about the modern Pokemon OSTs. Pokemon Legends Arceus had one of my favorite soundtracks. There was only 2 songs in that entire soundtrack I didn't really care for, and one of them was the Diamond and Pearl Clan village themes, and the other was, I don't even remember what it was. That's how not bad it was. I don't even remember what the other one was. There might not have even been another one. It might have just been that one. So that was the most consistent to me in modern Pokemon before this. Sword and Shield, I think, also only had one track that I didn't like. It was Mulberry, Hulberry, I forget what the town, the water town where they had the docks. I hated that music track. And there might have been another track or two somewhere along the way that was a much larger variety of music in that game than there was in Legends Arceus because there were more places to go. But that's the only one that really stands out to me out of the top of my head for a bad song. But Legends EA, again, can't think of a single one so far. They've all been not only good, not only consistent, but bangers. Every music track I've heard in Legends EA has been a banger. And that is crazy to me. I really love how they brought the French and European tones of X and Y and Lumio City soundtrack into this game, yet gave it that almost Generation 8 flair. I'm surprised they didn't go for more Generation 9 motifs. They did what they did with Generation 8. There's a lot of electronic sounding stuff, a lot of futuristic sounds that I really love that were very prevalent in Legends Arceus and Sword and Shield, and now are very prevalent here in Legends ZA. Add on top of that a new flavor of that noir music. They have these like noir tones and noir leitmotifs that they've added into certain tracks and are consistent throughout. And it's like that new sauce, that new zest that is specific to ZA as opposed to X and Y or the electronic futuristic sounds that they're reusing kind of from Gen 8. It's so unique. It's amazing. I can't praise it enough so far. And it's cool because the person who made all these music tracks is someone who made like fan-made remixes of Pokemon tracks on like YouTube or something. Or maybe they're on Spotify too. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. If they're on Spotify, we should all give them a listen because apparently they make really good music and really good Pokemon compositions as well. A lot of people were disappointed that Toby Fox wasn't making music in this, and yes, Toby Fox is responsible for honestly the best tracks in SV, and not responsible for all the bad tracks in SV, which there was a lot of bad music tracks in SV. But Toby Fox was mainly responsible for the good tracks in SV, you know, like Area Zero, the Area Zero battle tracks, and a few others. But here, this new musical artist, I don't know, maybe I like him better. I think I like him better than Toby Fox because while I love those music tracks in SV, like the fact that this man is able to make consistently so many good tracks for one game and keep it with the same like motifs and leitmotifs, it's really well done. It's also worth noting how effortlessly this music composer brought in old leitmotifs from previous Pokemon games or even like the Pokemon franchise as a whole, you know, like the main Pokemon theme, into these X and Y themes. It's so interesting. Like the Lumio City song also has the main Pokemon theme in it in ZA. And it was so masterfully done. And I remember the first time I heard it, which again was like a day or two ago, but the first time I heard it, I was just sitting here flabbergasted, like, wow, they found a way to mix the main motif of Pokemon's OST with the leitmotifs of X and Y. Insane. Crazy. Anyways, enough of me just glazing whoever this music composer is. I should really get his name, actually. I feel like it would be very unfair of me to talk this good about them and not mention them by name. So let me look this up real quick. Okay, I looked it up. Insane in the Rain Music is their YouTube name, with their real name being Carlos Ein. E-I-E-N-E. I don't know how to pronounce that. Ine. I have no idea. Okay, so apparently they were not the main composer, but they helped with the arrangements. I assume in remixing them. The main person credited is Shota Kageyama. Kageyama. Who has been a composer at Game Freak for, I assume, a long time and is credited as the main composer. There are also a couple others here credited for some other parts of the music composition, Hitomi Sato and Go Ichinose. Now, what I find curious here is that even though Shota Kageyama is credited as the main composer for Legends ZA, I'm wondering if that's only because he created the music in X and Y, or at least was the lead composer in that game. So, I don't know. I don't know the details. I'm going to possibly assume that Kageyama-san only did the original tracks and that Insane in the Rain Music made these remixes. Now, I could be wrong about that. It might have been both of them working together. Probably was both of them working together, actually, because, you know, you probably had to get approval from the original composer. But I don't know if he had a hand in making any of those remixes per se, or if he just, you know, maybe gave direction for them or gave advice. Maybe if he didn't feel that the direction was right, maybe he was like, oh, maybe take it in a different direction. And then Carlos took it in a different direction. I don't know. Or maybe one of the other composers that are credited. Either way, those people are who we have to thank for the amazing music in this game, and I would have been remiss to not mention them here in the video after glazing them so hard. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna go play more Pokemon Legends EA, or maybe I'll go touch some grass. I don't know, I've been playing it a lot, so maybe I'll touch some grass, and then I'll go play some more Pokemon Legends EA because I am so addicted right now to the game. So much so that I really do need to touch grass, actually. So yeah, I'll probably do that. And you guys, please make sure to do the same because touching grass is important. Or I guess in this case, touching the walls of the outside of buildings or the concrete, because we do in the city life today, baby. But what have been your early impressions of Pokemon Legends EA so far? I know some of you might have even beaten the game by now, and to those who have, you're crazy. Unless you got the game early. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and afterwards, check out more of my videos like this one here where I discuss all of the reviews for Pokemon Legends EA that critics are making. The link's in front of you or in the pinned comment. If you like what I do, want to support me, and have your name featured at the end of all of my videos, then please consider joining my Patreon with the link in front of you or in the description. I've been johtojonny, and I'll catch you all there.